20 rapid fire pro tips and tricks for vinyl record collectors. That's what we will discuss on this episode of Talking About Records. My name is G.I. Sanders from NTX Vinyl, a small chain of independent shops in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you're not local but you're in the U.S., you can shop online at ntxvinyl.com. Would appreciate if you subscribe here on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. All right, so I talk a lot about tips and tricks all the time, whether it's having to do with how to buy or how to organize or all those types of things in regards to vinyl record collecting. But I will say the best part about doing these types of videos is no matter what I think of, the ideas that I come to the table with, the community always comes back with just as good ideas, if not better. So there's always a laundry list in the comments of things I didn't think of or things I just didn't have time to mention. So the genesis for this video was like, man, I went back through a lot of the comments on a lot of the previous videos I've done around this topic, around tips and tricks in relations to the hobby, and tried to scrape out a lot of the ideas that you guys brought to the table. So lots of these are crowdsourced. A lot of these will probably be repetitive of things I've mentioned in the past or a lot of other people have mentioned. But the idea is to get through a whole list really quickly. So if you're new to vinyl record collecting, or maybe you just want some reminders, I know it's always helpful for me that you can watch this in a couple minutes and just see if there's anything you're missing in regards to your collecting habits. So, all right, we're going to run down 20. These are in no particular order. And we're going to start with some obvious stuff. But again, obvious but very, very critical. The first thing on the list is the first pro tip. Please put all of your records in clear outer sleeves. It does not cost a lot to go this route. I promise you, no matter how new your records are, how minty fresh they are, over time, pulling them in and out of a shelf or in and out of a crate or however you have them organized, they're going to start to get some wear. And I can tell you from experience, it adds up over time, and you'll look back at your records in 5, 10, 15 years or whatever it may be, and you'll wish you would have used clear outer sleeves. I promise you it's worth the investment. They don't cost that much. You can get a pack of 100 for, maybe $20. You can look them up on Amazon if you want. You can go to your local shop and get them, but just invest in clear outer sleeves. Very, very important. Can't stress that enough, and that's why I put it first. Number 2 is the inner sleeve. There is a ton of, there are a ton of different types of inner sleeves. What you want to attempt to avoid is the paper, right? A lot of records these days, new records, as well as, older records, you will find the paper sleeve. I still have tons of my records in these paper sleeves because it just takes time to go through and replace them all with something more along the lines of this. What you're looking for is something that is poly-lined, or you're looking for something that is made of rice paper. This is by a company called Invest in Vinyl. Mobile Fidelity makes these as well. There's lots of different brands and types, but again, what you want to look for is something that's more of a premium inner sleeve, like poly-lined or rice paper, because those are going to protect your records. Just like I mentioned in regards to the outer sleeves, when you pull a record in and out of the sleeves over and over, after many, many listens, many, many years, if you're in a paper sleeve, it's going to start to get some scuffing, which will obviously affect the sound over time. So very important to invest in outer and inner sleeve. Those are tips number 1 and 2. Number 3, organize. I can't stress this enough. I've done videos on organizing your records, how you should or how you can. This is just, to me, I enjoy things more when they're organized. If I have to walk into a room and everything is scattered, I automatically don't feel as comfortable as I'd like to because things are just out of place. And so when it comes to a record collection, again, it doesn't matter if you have 50 records or 5,000 records. My advice would be to organize whichever way you see fit. It doesn't matter which way. Organize them by genre, by artist, by year. It doesn't matter, but I really think that does play into the enjoyment of the hobby when you keep things organized. In the end, you're going to be much better off as far as knowing what you have and what you want when you organize. So that's number 3. Number 4, shop around locally. Number 4 is all about local buying. If you're lucky enough to have record stores in your town that you can walk into, that's amazing. I encourage you to check them all out, big or small. Same could be said for big box stores. If you've got those, they're all going to have different inventory, whether you're talking about Walmart or Barnes and Noble or Target. And then obviously you've got all your independent stores. So the idea is just, spread your dollars around, spread your time around in regards to where you shop for records locally. I think not only does that obviously help the community and it spreads around dollars, especially when they're going to independent record stores, but it will broaden your horizons in regards to what you see and what you buy, because I guarantee you every record store, regardless of what size or shape, they all have different inventory. There will be some crossover, but especially when it comes to pre-owned LPs, obviously. But even with new vinyl, I promise you, there is an abundance of inventory out there to purchase. So one shop from the next are going to have very different LPs to browse. Number 5 on the list, shop around online. This is big, and this is one that I think a lot of people forget. You can get stuck in a rut and you can just buy records from one place because it's easy. You already have an account set up and you trust them, and that's great. But just consider other options again, because just like the local shopping around locally, online shops can have lots of different inventory as well. They can have lots of different price points when it comes to usability of their website or app or whatever it may be. There's lots of different experiences there. So just again, step outside your box a little bit, shop around. There's tons of great independent retailers that have online websites that you can use. And then obviously you've got the options to go and shop at big boxes as well on their websites and things like that. So the tip or the trick is just to broaden your horizons again and shop around, get outside your box as far as where you typically buy records from. Hey, loyalty's great. Obviously I love when people buy just for me, but I encourage people to buy records from everywhere because that's great for the industry. Number 6 on the list, ask questions. This could pertain to a lot of different things, but what I meant by ask questions was, if you don't know what you're buying, again, I don't care if it's online or in a physical store, don't be afraid to ask. Ask the store owner, ask a friend, ask in a vinyl record group. Hey, do you know anything about this? Hey, does this sound good? Hey, do you recommend this? Like, don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no right or there's no wrong answers. You need to be proactive and get out there a little bit, as introverted as you may be as a record collector, which a lot of us are. But you've just got to kind of make a concerted effort to, again, ask questions and get answers before you just take chances on buying something. Again, whether it be about a specific pressing or an album by an artist you've never heard, things like that, right? So I just really encourage people in this hobby to be vocal and ask questions, and don't be shy about that. Number 7 goes right along with this. Educate yourself. So obviously, if you're going to be asking questions, you're going to gain some knowledge, and that's key. What I meant by this one is even broader, like about the hobby from a bigger picture standpoint. It's just, watching videos like this, going out on YouTube. There's lots of great YouTube channels on vinyl and collecting in the hobby. Definitely take a look through those. Same can be said on other online groups, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever it be. There's lots of communities. Spending time going through those is going to help you so much. If you're a new collector or if you've been doing this a long time, I promise you, sometimes you got to weed through some of the nonsense to get to the valuable stuff. But there's a lot of people out there who are educated and who have been doing this a long time. And so if you're someone who's kind of just getting into this, or maybe been in it a little while and you're just looking to take that next step, like, don't be afraid to really educate yourself. Go out there. There's a lot of resources, whether it be walking into your local record store and talking to the guy behind the counter, the guy or girl behind the counter, or whether it's going online to a Facebook group and engaging with people there. Just get involved and educate yourself, because it's only going to help you feel more confident about what you're doing as you collect. Next on the list, number 8, catalog your collection. I've talked about this ad nauseum. I've done a bunch of videos on Discogs in particular, which is a tool that is built for the main purpose, I believe, is to catalog your own collection. And of course, there's a lot of other features, but I'm not saying you have to do it on Discogs. What I'm saying is you should have a list somewhere, somehow, of what you own in regards to records. And I encourage you to start from day one. Even if you've only got 20 records in your collection, just have a note on your phone. Go to Discogs, create an account for free, and log them in there. It will only help you in the long run to know what you have, to know what you want, to know what you're really after. And when you go into a record store, when you're shopping online, to be able to refer to that list. So cataloging your collection, I think, is critical. And similar to Tip number 3, which was organize. I think just when you know what's in your collection, not only is it going to help you to buy something so you don't buy duplicates, it's just going to help you enjoy the hobby more, because you have a really all-encompassing knowledge of what you own and what you can listen to, and it just again, the organizational aspect of that, I think, really plays into enjoying the hobby, right? And I think cataloging your records is a big part of that. All right, number 9, dig deeper. Specifically talking here about artist catalogs, right? There's a lot of people, I think, out there who just kind of hit the tip of the iceberg in regards to grabbing the greatest hits or maybe grabbing the one key album, but man, you're missing so much great music in a lot of ways. So I would encourage you to not just grab Dark Side of the Moon. Like, go check out Metal, go check out Animals if you don't know these albums. Wish You Were Here. There's some incredible albums that are in some ways deeper than that #1 hit album. Same with like Fleetwood Mac Rumors. I'm pretty sure most people have that in their collection. There's a lot of other great Fleetwood Mac records, going to the early days of the more bluesy band before Lindsey and Stevie joined, and then you have the self-titled record. You've got a bunch of, I'm just naming those as examples off the top of my head of artists that I feel like people kind of sometimes just pick off the biggest album. They don't go a lot deeper. So I'm encouraging you to make an effort to grab some albums that aren't necessarily the ones you're used to seeing. Maybe you already own those, so dig a little deeper into those catalogs. That's all I'm saying. I think that definitely helps the collector's mentality too, to kind of build out catalogs of certain artists, and you're going to explore and learn about a lot of great music you maybe hadn't heard before. So, all right, number 10. This goes right along with it. Take some chances. So this one, not artists that you already know of, but take some chances on some artists maybe you've never heard. Maybe you've heard the name before. Maybe someone's recommended and you just never got around to it. Don't be afraid to take some chances. I think there's a little bit of hesitancy from collectors to really just stick with what you know. I'm guilty of it too. Over the years, especially the last couple years, as I've really started to build out my collection, I've been experimenting, listening to a lot more jazz. I've been listening to blues here and there when I can. Again, getting out of my shell, which is classic and alternative rock and metal and punk and the stuff I really grew up on, but just starting to experience other genres and other types of music. I think that can be really important. Again, if I'm thinking about longevity as far as being a collector and taking this from being someone who's kind of novice and new out of it to getting over that hump and really expanding and dedicating real time to it. I think that's a big part of it, right? So taking some chances. Number 11, it follows up both those. Stream it first. You've got streaming at your disposal if you use it. Most people have a streaming account, not all, but I think it's, again, it's 80+% of the music industry right now is generated from streaming income. And, so you should use that to your advantage. When you're in a record store, you see an album, maybe you do want to take a chance, but you're like, man, it's $30. Never heard this album. It looks really cool. I've kind of heard of the artist before. Pull it up, stream a track or two, just see if you like it. Use that to your advantage and then make a purchase to actually own that music, bring it home and enjoy it. And again, so take a chance on it, but stream it first. I hear a lot of people do this. I do it myself. I'd be surprised if anyone isn't doing it, honestly, but there are people out there who don't use streaming services at all. So, I'm sure it exists, but if you have a streaming subscription of any kind, I think it makes a perfect pairing with vinyl, especially when you're trying to, again, think outside the box and experiment and find something new to listen to that wouldn't normally be in your wheelhouse. All right, number 12. This one probably should have been first. Set some goals. I think this is important. Again, you're talking about collecting, if you're talking about the hobby in general, and you're just kind of, maybe you're inching your way into it, or maybe you've been at this a while and you're just kind of not sure where to go and you just kind of pick up records randomly. Like, maybe set some goals, like, not necessarily how many records you want to buy a month. Like, I guess you could do that, but for me, it comes down more about quality versus quantity. It's like, which artist do I want to actually dive into? I made a concerted effort, if I think back many years ago, when I wasn't into the Grateful Dead. I only knew the greatest hits, and I had a goal. I'm like, I'm going to complete my Grateful Dead catalog, and I'm going to listen to them in order and understand what this band is all about, right? Did the same thing with Bob Dylan years and years ago. always knew the hits, had, greatest hits 1 and 2, and that was kind of as far as I went for years. And then eventually I got to a point where I was like, man, I need to educate myself with this artist. And again, I'm just pulling those as examples from my personal experience, but those are examples again of like setting some goals. Like maybe it's like I want to pick off certain genres or certain artists, or maybe you can go to the Rolling Stone, top 100 albums ever list and start going down that list and trying to acquire those to, again, have a goal in mind, because I think that can help when collecting. I hear it all the time, and I can tell you it's true for me. When I walk into a record store, especially a big record store, it's overwhelming. You don't know where to start. I've got my want list, and it's a lot of stuff, mostly rarer stuff that maybe they don't have on hand. And it's like, if I have some goals in mind or some things to think about that'll point me in the right direction, it's only going to help you progress and grow your collection over time. Number 13 on the list: share this experience. I've talked about this before, and I just can't stress how important it is to me. But I think, but I've also heard the opposite, where some people are like, no, I only like to listen to records alone. Yeah, that's just my thing. Hey, if that's your thing, that's great. But for me personally, and I think of a lot of other people that I know and are in the community that I'm involved with in regards to records, like sharing what you're passionate about, I think only plays into the successful nature of you being a record collector and, propelling yourself forward, not only in the size of your collection, but just how involved and how much you enjoy it, right? I think that's what it's all about. Like, I'm trying to talk about tips or tricks that will help you enjoy this hobby more. Like, that's the whole thing for me. And as I go through these, like, they're great reminders for me, right? And this is one of them: share the experience. So it's like, I can certainly sit in my listening room and spend records all weekend long if I want, and not let anyone know, right? But the ability to actually share that with someone in person or online, just by sharing pictures and stuff, it has done wonders for me and my passion for the hobby. So I can't stress that enough. Find a place, find a person, find a group, and get involved and share your love for this hobby, because I think, again, it's only going to kind of put fuel on the fire when you start doing that. So I think that's really important. Number 14, buy now or regret it later. Oh man, we've all had those experiences where it's like, oh, I wish I would have bought this back when I saw it for $20, Just think about that now. Every time you walk into a record store, every time you go to an online site and you're thinking about buying, if you're on the fence, but your gut tells you, man, I think this, I'm really gonna like this. B, it's probably not going to be around that long. Maybe it doesn't say if it's limited edition or not. Maybe it's not numbered, so you don't really know. But just go with your gut. If you think that there's a chance that this may not be available later, buy it now, because if you don't, there's a chance you're going to miss out completely. Maybe it ends up being something that's repressed and readily available for a long time. You can always pass it on to someone if you don't end up enjoying it, right? So that would be personal advice for myself, having gone through a lot of regrettable moments of not buying albums over the years and then missing out on them. And now I just don't own them because they're way high in value or just impossible to find, right? So I would definitely recommend, go with your gut. If you're on the fence, go with your gut and probably buy it now versus regretting it later. Number 15, clean your records more often than you think. This is a big one. There's a lot of different ways to clean records, from having a little spray bottle and a rag or a brush, to actually, investing thousands of dollars in an incredible, actual automated cleaner. And there's every step in between, of course. What I'm saying, the tip is just clean more often than you think. Look, I play a lot of records, and I am horrible about cleaning them every time I play them, right? It's already inconvenient enough to spin records. Like, let's, get the elephant out of the room. Like, it's not a streaming experience where you can hit play and walk around and not tend to it, right? And so adding another step in of cleaning a record every single time is hard. I struggle with it too, but again, this is a reminder for me, like, I should clean them more often than I do, and you probably should as well. Or maybe you're one of those people who clean your records every single time you play them. That's amazing. I'd love to meet you if that's you. All right. Number 16, keep hunting. What I mean by that is, don't give up. Like, believe me, there are records out there, whether you're looking for pre-owned kind of original stuff, or if it's just something that's new and you can't find it, there's a lot of outlets. I already talked about, making sure to shop around locally and shop around online. Just keep hunting, whether it's for an individual album. Maybe you're like, hey, I want to actually acquire some collections. And every time I look on Craigslist and Facebook and estate sales and garage sales, everything's picked over. You can't find anything. I promise if you keep at it, you'll hit something eventually. It just takes persistence. It takes patience. And it just takes you having a mindset that, that you're not going to give up. So just keep hunting. As a record store owner, you kind of have to have that mindset, because you go in spells where you just don't find anything, as far as collections are concerned. And it's the same as a personal collector, where sometimes I've been after an album and, I just haven't seen it in forever. I've kind of given up on it, but just keep after it, ask around. One of the most amazing things I did was I put up a video of my top 10 albums or something that were on my want list that have been there forever. And I legitimately was just doing it because I thought it was a cool list of albums that I've just never had the chance to buy. And sure shit, people actually sold them to me. I've actually acquired 2 or 3 of them. It was an amazing thing that I did not expect or plan. So again, just kind of keep after it, keep hunting. Number 17 follows right along with these, with the last one. When you're traveling, explore other cities and their vinyl communities. Record shops being the primary place, obviously. I can't stress how cool it is to go to another city and seek out record stores. I see it all the time. People say, hey, I'm going to be in, I'm be in Chicago on the weekend. Does anybody have any stores I should check out? Or I'm going to be in Vegas, or I'm going to be in New York, whatever it may be. I see people doing this already, and I love seeing it because it's such a cool thing. I know when I travel, even when I'm with the family, like, we're always looking for things to just experience the local community, and as opposed to just doing touristy things. Record stores are a great way to do that. Hit a record store, hit a bar, hit a restaurant, like, see what the area looks like. And I promise, just like I mentioned as far as shopping locally, like, every record store has different stuff, so you're going to find a completely different inventory and stock at a record store in one city versus the next. And it's just a cool experience to go see different record stores. They're all different, large, small, different genres across the board. So I definitely recommend that. If you're going to be traveling, you think you're going to have some spare time, whether it's for vacation or even for work, like, just cut out a little time if you can, and check out the record stores where you're going. Number 18, read reviews. I can't stress this enough. I'm talking specifically about record stores, like I just mentioned. Obviously, you can go to Yelp, you can go to Google, you can ask in a community if a record store is worth visiting. But also in regards to records themselves, I think a lot of people go into a record store, or they go online, and they read what's on the page, or they read what's on the sticker, whatever it may be. And that's kind of where they stop, and they think, well, all right, I guess I'll take a chance on it, which sometimes is worth doing. Again, that's a tip, you to take a chance. The other side of me says, why would you do that? Just go to Discogs, go to a vinyl group, ask people, hey, does anybody have this? Does anybody have this specific pressing? I'm familiar with this artist and these albums. Does anyone have this one? I don't have it. Can you tell me what it's like? I already mentioned you can stream it if that's an option for you. So really, there's all of the information that you need is out there. It's just up to you if you want to discover it and how much you want to dive into it. And so I try to do that as much as possible, and I try and balance that with the idea of taking chances. It's hard. It really depends on what it is, how much it costs, and if I think I'm ever going to see it again. If I feel it's something I've never seen, maybe it's not rare monetarily, but maybe it is hard to come after just from an availability standpoint. Number 19, get comfortable. I've done a video on the tour of my listening room. I've watched a plethora of videos on other people's listening rooms. I think it's so fascinating to see how other people enjoy this hobby in regards to their environment. I just can't stress it enough. Like, I think you've got to have a comfortable place to listen to records. Otherwise, you're really setting yourself up for failure, in my opinion. If you don't have a place to sit that is enjoyable, where you can spend time with the record, like, again, you're just not really probably going to sustain long term at this, because again, it's already inconvenient as is. You need to be comfortable, you need to be able to enjoy it. And I think having a space, a chair, a corner, whatever it is, that's going to help you enjoy the music, is going to really, again, propel yourself forward in regards to your collecting and the hobby in general. Number 20, last one on the list. This is one I honestly put it on here to remind myself, is slow down and enjoy the music. I do so much in regards to records, obviously, dealing with a record store, but even as a personal collector, I'm always acquiring new records. I'm looking up new records. I'm cleaning records. I'm listening to records. All this stuff. It's like, just take time and slow down and just enjoy the hobby. Put on a record, sit there and do nothing. Like, maybe that's just me because I'm so ingrained in this. But I know there's a lot of other people who are the same way, and I'm constantly thinking about it. If I'm not on my phone looking up something or buying something or researching something, it's like every now and then just sit down, hopefully in that comfortable chair, maybe even put some headphones on, get a drink, just slow down, enjoy it. Can't recommend that enough. I need to do it more often myself, honestly. So there are 20 rapid fire pro tips. I'm not sure how fast it was. I tried to be fast, but it's hard to get through all this stuff. So there's a lot to talk about. Hopefully some of that was helpful. I really wanted to hit on a few things that were simpler and didn't might be overlooked in a lot of ways from people. I know, again, a lot of this is just reminders for me of things I don't do often enough on a daily basis. So really appreciate you watching as always. I'm sure I missed some, so fill it in the comments as you always do. Really appreciate the support. Stick around on the channel. I'll pop up some other videos. This has been yet another episode of Talking About Records.